No single real estate platform met all my needs, so I built my own system in Notion. My name is Izaiah Barba, and I built $1 million wholesale real estate business. And in this video, I'll show you the 10 exact Notion use cases I used to fill in the gaps in my business. I'm showing this through wholesale real estate, but the structure applies to any business. Let's get into it. So the big thing is that there's some limitations with CRMs and different platforms that we have. So we use Notion to kind of fill in that gap. So in a nutshell, what Notion does, it combines Google Sheets, Google Docs, like basically CRMs, notes, all in one spot. And I'll show you actually ways that we use it to make our lives easier. So the agenda for today, what I'm going to go through is this central hub for vision, basically where all of our pages live, kind of like all of our knowledge in the real estate field specifically, and then how we track marketing lists, how we manage data flows from start to finish, how we track our finances through Notion, how we run meetings, keeping deals organized, essentially the disposition portion, our SOPs and how we are very efficient with it because they sync, onboarding and managing team members, replacing static tools, systems, we'll dive into that a little bit, and also checklist for onboarding team members. So let's get right into it. So this is our main page. This is where all of our, essentially all of our information lives, and then each page has its own breakdown. But this is just for what Jake and I use. You can see our vision. You can see all of our different visions. You can see there's a quote that gets pulled from the internet. We just see a quote every day, which is cool. Our passwords, responsibilities, our companies that we're working on. And then you could see regarding our whole wholesale business, everything to do with acquisitions, dispo, transactions, admin, creative finance. These are just drop downs. I won't open it up because it'd be a whole slew of things, but that's kind of how we set this up. And we color coded a lot of this whole Notion through what our companies are. So we have kind of a key of how we operate, but this is our main page that we leverage. So regarding this right here, tracking marketing lists. So right now we've noticed that there's some limitations with REsimpli is the CRM that we're currently using when it comes to keeping track of lists. And so essentially when you do outbound marketing, you have to grab a list, import into the CRM, skip trace it, fill out the records, do the marketing. And then right now we're doing marketing of testing or texting and calling. And so how we keep track of that is we use a conveyor belt. And this is what Notion can do and some of the things it's doing to help us with this. So we have this conveyor belt function. And essentially this is just a Google sheet, but you can manipulate the information so it's a little bit easier to read. So right now we have a page of, or these are just rather lists. So Nashville, Tennessee, for example, this is a blanket pan list and it's on deck. So say we're going to export it, we just move the card. Export it from the data source, export it from PropStream, for example, and then after, let's say we import it to REsimpli first, and then from there we're going to skip trace it and we just move it as we go. So then this is just an easy way to keep track of lists. And then you can actually add in more information on the cards. I'll use the disposition board because it's very similar and dive into that deeper of what you can do with the cards. But that is one of the biggest things that we do. Say, for example, I have texting, so there's different views. We also have texting. So now I could do the exact same list and I could see where it's at on the texting cycle when it is marketed. So for example, Bradenton, say that's already skip trace, it's already. You can just move this one to the first cycle. It's waiting in between, second cycle, and so on. So then we all know where lists are at in the life cycle to make sure we are really squeezing the list and really reaching out to those people. For the software's view, this is pretty cool. You can obviously do this in the spreadsheet, but it's just, I think it's a little bit cleaner where you can see, for example, hey, here's all our software. So right now we're spending $5K a month on softwares, and you can see, hey, it's monthly. You can see the notes on it. You can see how much yearly it is. And this is all the stuff you can do in Google Sheets. I just think it's a little cleaner because it's very dynamic on how you can present the information. That's what I like about it. It's very dynamic. So for example, if I click the deal machine, if I click into it, you can see all this information. I can make notes on it on the actual thing. I could put like say I have an affiliate link, I could put it here. So I could really just put a lot of stuff in all one spot. So we have all of our softwares in here so we could see it from a bird's eye view. So meetings, this is how Jake and I operate on meetings. So essentially every
week when we meet, we create a new page, and this is a template that we created in Notion. I'm happy to share all these templates with you guys if you guys find any of these things helpful. But here it is. So it's like I would put in the date, who's participating in it, and then I would have preparation of what I would bring to this meeting. Jake would have it, and then we would talk. Here's our agenda. We basically use Traction as a guide of how we run our meetings. But here's our agenda, and then we just go through it, anything we want to touch on, and then we would come away with action items. And which is cool is you can sync your action items to your to-do list. It's kind of complex there, but there's a possibility, and that's what I do, is anything I add here, it actually goes into another section of Notion where I see all my things I need to do. So that's kind of a cool thing. I do that with all my meetings. So all my meetings, I have action items in every single meeting, and I'm able to actually have it all go to one spot, so then I could see all the things I need to do. Next is Dispo. So our CRM REsimpli kind of some limitations, so that's why we do some Dispo tracking through Notion. So for example, same idea, conveyor belt, like we do with list. The life cycle of these properties where it's like, hey, you start it, you put it on hold if it is on hold, but it's ideally it's start, and then you go pending pictures lockbox, underwrite. After we get the pictures, obviously we have a different model here, but that's the idea. And then if it's pending marketing, you put the walkthrough period and so on. So you just bring it through left to right of where things are at. And what's is cool is there's all these different aspects that you can do on this card. There's all this information. And I could say that, okay, it's let's just say this is a single family property. So right now it will actually show on the card, and it's cool because you can actually make all this information on the card. If I wanted to show that deal type, for example, I wanted to show it's an ovation deal. I guess that's already being shown. But say I didn't want to see that. I could do property visibility and take out deal type, and it will actually go away from the card. So it's very flexible and dynamic, which is really awesome. This is what we do for all of our deals. And we just go through the process, just A to Z. And it just lets us see it in one snapshot of what's going on. Okay, regarding the SOP. So all of our documents, this could be a Google Doc, but we like to use it in Notion. And the biggest reason why is because there's consistent information between our SOPs in the sense of we have the same core values in our acquisition position and also our disposition position, for example, the same core values. So what's cool about Notion is the sync block function. So for example, here are our core values. And you can see that it's synced across all these different SOPs and all of these different pages. And the power of that is if I make a difference, if I were to adjust this, like make it happen, or for example, relentless, and I would say, not doing this anymore, it would actually change in the other SOP as well. So if I go to the TC SOP, for example, you'd see that it actually changed as well there. So that's a really cool thing. And I use sync blocks greatly because right now, if you were to just do a Google Doc, you'd have to change it in one spot and then change it in the other. But Notion, you can do multiple spots. So that's a cool thing. And you can see this is everything to do with our position as an acquisition rep. And then they just, when we onboard, they just go through this and then they sign at the end. But that's what that looks like. Next is our dashboard. So when we have somebody that we bring onto the team, we are a virtual company. So we create a virtual office for them, essentially. So here is their SOPs where they could see everything that they need. Here's our logins. We've had so many different variations of this. It was too complex. It was too simple. And it's really position specific, but this is what we have. So it's like the role. Here are the logins if they need. Here are their goals. Here's the knowledge on the position and your schedule. Those are like the main things that we want to see. And then we have a broadcast channel, which is awesome. You can see, hey, we're the year. Here's our core values. Here's our missions and all that. And this kind of broadcast, if I were to change something here, it's a sync block. It would change on everybody's homepage, which is really, really awesome. So we're the week. So I think it's really, really cool. This power of sync blocks through Notion. But that's what we do for our people when we bring them on. We give them basically a virtual office so they have one-stop shop of everything that they need in order to be successful. Here's our transaction coordinator SOP, or not SOP, their dashboard, you can see it's a little different. If say they have KPIs, the role, different logins. If they were to do self-assessment, goals, and then these are all pages of kind of knowledge in order to be successful in the position. And then lastly is onboarding. Onboarding is a whole thing in itself, and this is a way for us to keep track of a checklist of making sure they are essentially being onboarded correctly. So right now, say for example, Meredith in this case, she's was onboarded. Who's doing it? We basically use a table in order to kind of keep track of those things. And right now, Mara, one of my team members, she goes in here, and you can see that she's responsible for everything in brown. And she would go in, she would add the employee hiring card, she would send an email, send an employment agreement. She would just go through all the steps, create an email for them, add them to our Slack, like do everything, and just a checklist. And then I can check, make sure that she's actually done it. So it's a really cool way to see. And then say she did complete all her tasks, you could just do this, boom, and then I could see like, okay, overall, I don't need to click in there. I could just know that she did all her tasks. But if I wanted to double check, I just go in here. And then you can see the start date of the person and all of that. So very helpful when it comes to onboarding, Notion is. And obviously we're doing this for Dispo, but we do this for every position. Just kind of really streamlines it. But yeah, those are some of the possibilities of Notion. We basically use it for everything. But those are 10, I would say, biggest things that move the needle for us that really help us stay organized. So if you guys have any questions or other things you guys would like to see, let me know. But those are just 10 use cases that we really find helpful to be successful in our business.
If you got any value out of this, please subscribe and drop a comment. This channel is where I show real estate operators how to scale businesses through systems, AI, and organization using wholesale real estate as the proving ground. Click all the links below for all the resources I have to offer. Thank you.